Hi, welcome back to Inside Security. This is episode number 8. It's been a while since the last episode. It's been over 3 weeks, if I'm not mistaken. I got COVID after the last episode, so I've been out of commission for a while now. But I'm all good. It's all good now. So I'm really excited about today's episode. I wanted to cover the topic of threat intelligence for a while now, and we have the perfect guest for this tonight. So together with me on this episode, I have Magnus from Recorded Future. So welcome to Inside Security, and please introduce yourself to the viewers if you want.
Thank you very much, Mikael. It's unbelievable. What an intro, you know. So this is better than I ever had before. So yeah, I'm very excited to be here. I really enjoy these sessions you have, before with other people. It's a quite cool, calm environment, and hopefully be able to share some of my thoughts or insights that we have today. So yeah, as I say, Magnus Lundgren. I work for a company called Recorded Future, which is something as special as a Swedish American company. Swedish founder, and originally from Gothenburg in Sweden, but the head office has always been in Boston. And founded about 10 years ago. I joined about 6 years ago, and we're growing very well. We now I joined with 50 people. Now we're 600 people. We're providing basically a SaaS solution for threat intelligence or security intelligence in the cyberspace.
That's really cool. You've been growing quite fast, haven't you?
Yeah, it's been a phenomenal journey, to be honest, and not only from a company perspective, but just exciting in this area. Is just so exciting, right? And what you can do and what you see and what you find out is just. I mean, we obviously work with TrueSec here. I mean, you are there with see what's happening to companies and people and everything else. It's a lot of things going on.
Yeah, it's the right business to be in if you want a constant change and new things and new aspects of stuff. So
yeah,
I mean, my thought is that we're going to talk about threat intelligence. So maybe we should sort of set the or explain, like, what is threat intelligence? What's your do you have a good explanation?
Yeah, that's gonna take the rest of this session, I think.
Perfect.
We actually call it security intelligence now to broaden it, but I think first of all, I think it's a very difficult word, threat intelligence, because it's very complicated, right? Intelligence, what is and threat, and in Swedish it's what we call it, maybe underrättelse. It's also very complex. That sounds very very advanced, very strange, but not necessarily it has to be, right? If we think about the normal physical world, we all the time we get intelligence or information about what's going on outside where we live and what we do. We read in the papers, where crime is committed, how crime is committed, and everything else. And to some extent, this is the same stuff in the cyber world, trying to understand what's going on outside your own sort of network or what you're doing. It's a lot of bad people, yeah. and certain nations as well, and others out there doing basically criminal activity, and having that intelligence or information on how they do it and and what can be done. That's sort of crucial to create a good security posture for yourself and your company.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the more you know, the better you can defend yourself, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So
in short, that's it.
Yeah. To me, initially, if we go back a few years, intelligence or an intelligence organization for me was a government entity doing intelligence work. But now it's sort of not more, but it's also in the public sector, like the way you do it, right?
Yeah. So that's true, right? I mean, intelligence, especially around, if you think about that kind of, we call it geopol intelligence, typically, when you see like troop movement and stuff, which we, or pieces of that we do as well. On geographical incidents, you can, terror attacks and everything else. But, and it's nothing more here that this is developed like anything else. If you think about if you look at those defense sector, everything they do is commercial things. They use commercial aircrafts, commercial guns, whatever. And cyber is exactly the same stuff. It's just that to do that, some of that piece is done commercially, other pieces is done, by yeah, by the military themselves or that kind of organization because they have some things. So it's nothing. Yeah, no difference there really.
Yeah.
And just the fact that this is now, well, maybe if you look at some of the early classic attacks, people going on sort of nation states attacks. This is now become way more, or probably way more criminal activity, which hits companies primarily more.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you compare it to traditional like government or let's say troop movement, for example, for me, at least it's quite easy to understand how that would fit into like your real world. Like, if you know where the enemy troops are, like you can position yourself better. So that to me makes sense. But how would you say like that threat intelligence fits into an organization? Like, what's the actual use of it?
Well, so the actual use of it is like in the, you can even listen to the Microsoft CEO or whatever. I mean, IT is a bit broken today. It's in case it's so many vulnerabilities in software, so many different ways. Internet wasn't built originally for being secure.
Yeah.
And just understanding, right? Okay, look, let's see what I have here in my network inside, and understand what is the most likely way someone can sort of penetrate my systems and do bad things to me, which could be a number of different things, right? So getting that information and then try to protect yourself at every point in time as good as possible. That's the difference you can make with threat intelligence.
Yeah. So would you say you can sort of predict future attacks on your organization or company as well?
Well, there is an element of prediction which is quite advanced, but in general, intelligence is about knowing what is going on in general right now. What kind of vulnerabilities has been weaponized recently, or what was used recently. I mean, if your neighbor is attacked in one way, there's a good likelihood that you will be attacked the same way, sort of thing, which is not a huge prediction. There is some cool things we're doing on because we look at things like just something very technical like IP addresses and see which ones are command and control servers right now and what sort of malware all they're dropping, to be a bit technical here. And here's a way you can see, the bad guys, they buy IP ranges in at bulk as everybody else. So you can predict that some IP addresses probably will go bad in the future, even though they haven't yet, or even you haven't seen it, because you have a system with, there's a bad neighborhoods in the IP world exist as well as bad neighborhoods in the physical world, right? Parts of your city or your town.
Yeah.
Is it? No. So that's a bit of prediction.
That's really cool. So you can sort of, on a reputation basis, sort of know that this might be bad in the future.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
So we have that. We have an indicator that says this IP is more likely to potentially be bad, even though we haven't seen anything bad on it as of now.
Yeah. I mean, of course, you're like, if we're speaking about recorded future specifically, you like your customers are probably like big companies, organizations, like government stuff, I suppose. So do you think that a company or organization needs to have reached some form of maturity level in the security work, or like can anyone benefit from threat intelligence?
Well, that's a good point, right? So it's two different sides of this. To one extent, if you're a large corporation, let's say financial institutions, you have a big attack surface, you have huge network, you have huge assets you need to protect, and you're under attack because if you get hit, they have a good hold on you. So you have a big organization, and you need to work everybody together. So that's a way to use this data. But also, as a matter of fact, a lot of this organization could be just small organizations where you can, if you use threat intelligence, could be one person, IT department. If you get this intelligence, you can do the right decisions sort of automatically in a small organization. That's going to be a lot of value. You get the power of all these things, our researchers and our sort of security intelligence machine is doing in your own small IT environment. So that's the other way to look at it.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
So, and I mean, we're looking at you sort of track different threat actors, and a threat actor like in this. When we talk about threat actors, it's a nation state. A threat actor, or it could be like a ransomware gang or something. So would you say that like different types of threat actors has different end goals? Like are nation states only into data theft or ransomware, or are like criminal gangs, more ransomware gangs, are they only in for the monetary gains, or?
I mean, that's a big topic here, right? So I mean, so as you say, we call it threat actors, and I mean the two most classical one are the nation state, basically nations that have the capability of doing offensive attacks, and then the other sort of probably larger, at least from a number of attacks, is then the criminal gangs, based out of again typically out of a certain number of countries as well, who does this, right? And then there are some other types as well, but those are the two bigs, and these are in itself have different objectives. This just put some of the research we done put up lately. I mean, if you look at the nation state, you have North Korea. They're running. They're under blockade, right, from the international community. They still need to buy oil, need to buy guns, need to buy whatever. So they need to get hard, currency, and they have a whole army doing basically criminal activity to get money on ransomware and other things to get Bitcoin, maybe to convert that in dollars, maybe to buy stuff on the open market, or not open market, but the black open market. So, and so that's and it's a huge amount of money. It's not small. It's $1 billion they make out of cybercrime as a nation state, and then then you have other Iran, we have Russia, USA and others that all have different goals in what they do. China, probably the most prominent we see now. I mean, we recently report, China was basically feeling that the Catholic Church were getting too strong in China, so they started launching an attack on the Vatican to get information about what's going on, because they don't want any sort of type of communities to be too strong inside China. Yes, this year we released a report how there's tension on the border between India and China, and they sort of attacked 10 different power plants inside, or energy plants inside India near the border, just to show what they can do. I mean, this is a weapon.
Yeah. Just to show some muscles, and don't forget that we're here.
Yeah, and then I think one news happened now. It was 2018. Visma. I think this is also just a very interesting case for people to realize what's going on there. So Visma is this sort of payment, not payment, salary and accounts receivable bookings kind of SaaS platform for quite a lot of companies in Europe. Probably, I mean, there are over 5,000 employees, and a lot of people in Sweden get their pay slips from Visma and use their products to handle all that. And they were attacked by Chinese nation state, and we were there, and we were close, I think, with Rapid7 to work on that incident. But the thing is, there, like, you can think, why do China as a nation try to attack a small, comparatively small provider like that in Norway? And I think this is intelligence. This is they gather information. You can gather people's salaries, get information about companies, and that just brings it into the whole big data lake of information that you want to collect to be able to do future bad things, probably.
Yeah, because I suppose that intelligence itself is like a puzzle. Like you try to collect as many pieces as you can, and even pieces that might seem like unimportant, when you put them together, make like you get the whole big picture. Then it makes sense, basically, right?
Yeah. So that's
Yeah, and like when we talk about attribution, and like attribution is the art of finding out who's behind something.
Who's behind something? Yeah.
So is attribution important? Would you say? Like, do you benefit from knowing which group or nation state you're up against, or not, or does it really matter or not? Would you say?
I mean, I guess it depends on who you are, and how you're going to tackle it. But it's first of all, attribution is very hard, and even though and when people find out who it is, they don't want to tell. They don't want to tell who it is either. This is just, you can see from a lot of indictments by America on different Chinese individuals and others. They say, we have evidence, but we never sort of provide what kind of evidence or how they get that evidence, how they could attribute to these people. But I think it's absolutely important. I think this is something, I don't know, obviously if you realize which the attacker is, maybe you can have a little bit more understanding of maybe what the goals are. Or, if you see you had an intruder, or whether they're here to steal our intellectual property, or whether they're here to make money, or whether they're here to do something else. That's obviously, if you can get that attribution, it could obviously help you as such. And then also, like, a lot of people go public on these things, and I think that's a big benefit, right? When people say we were attacked by these people, what's going on, and just raise awareness of the whole problem we have.
Yeah, because I think there's a lot of a big number of attacks that are being kept in the dark, which people would never ever hear about. So it's hard to quantify how many attacks there are and how big they are. I think. So.
Yeah, I mean, in our world, they say that cybercrime or cybercrime is as big as drug market on the legal market. I mean,
yeah,
that's massive. That's just how big. That's just okay. Can't even think about it.
Yeah.
So
I mean, that's got to be a massive market that I suppose more people want to be a part of.
And it's very lucrative because based on who you are, it's very it's easy to get away with it as well. The high return for low chance to get caught.
Yeah, absolutely. I've never seen any numbers, but I would strongly assume that it's easier to get away with a ransomware attack than a bank heist, for example.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, the risks are probably quite low compared to.
And just the fact, like, wasn't it last year the Norwegian oil fund bank there, they transferred, was it 10 million US dollars in a illicit transaction? A bank heist of $10 million, that would get frontline news. Yeah, it's just someone doing a bit of calling up and sending some stuff, making it happening. So
yeah, and the amounts are getting insane. I know that Acer, the company, the computer manufacturer Acer, was ransomwared a couple of weeks ago, and they were like, the demands, from what I read just publicly, was $50 million US.
Yeah.
I mean, if they pay up, that's a lot of money.
Yeah, and I don't know if you saw. This is a site. So the record by it's a news site we have. The record by Recorded Future, and we had an interview actually with Revel, who is one of these big ransomware gang. It's quite interesting. I don't know. So some people on our end has some fantastic abilities to get some cool interviews. And one thing was interesting there. So this is a lot of people have this cyber insurance. So if you get hacked, you can get money from the insurance company because you have an insurance against getting hacked. And they claim that they were trying to hack, or were hacking, the insurance companies, because then if they could get the list of the companies that have an insurance, those are the companies they want to go after, because those are more likely to pay out, because the companies just go, hey, pay these people out. We need to get back into business. So having it's like having a fire insurance, and the person who's put fire in houses, check if you have an insurance or not.
Yeah. So here's a bit of a controversial question. Answer it if you want to or not. So would you say that if you have if you assume that's the case, that REvil is hacking insurance companies to find out which customers or companies does have an insurance, would you say that having an insurance puts a target on your back? So are you more likely to get hacked if you have an insurance or not?
Well, that's if your insurer, your insurer has been hacked for sure. But I wouldn't necessarily say would say against having a cyber insurance, but just an interesting. I mean, I would say this. I'm basically passing that question. I say it just shows a bit on how innovative these people are, right? I mean, in crime in general, it's like that's why they find the most creative people. It's always scams in all different directions, even not only internet, but before that's people come up with so many good things. I would say so many, it'll just be natural, right?
Yeah, I suppose they have to. They have to come up with new ways of just scamming
Yeah.
people or hacking whatever they can, basically.
Mhm.
It's like, what do you? I mean, nowadays I suppose that the most common things are ransomware, and then another thing that's really on the rise is like data leaks. So
Yeah.
like a double ransom that we like to call it. I don't know if it's like an
Mhm.
official term or not, but
Let's make it official.
yeah, exactly, double
Double
ransom.
ransom.
Yeah, so basically, I mean, you probably know this, of course, but so you have a threat actor that hacks a company, and then they ransomware the entire thing. You're completely out of work. You can't do anything. And then on top of that, they steal your data, and then they say, "Oh, we'll also leak your data or sell it to a third party unless you pay us this ransom as well." So I mean, that seems to be on the rise also. Is there anything else? If
Yeah,
you
I mean that's yeah, absolutely. I mean that's and now just recently we read basically we said triple ransom. Now they also said okay, so let's say I have this company that we have a ransom. We're just about to press the button. If you can buy the knowledge on to which company it is, so you can bet against it on the stock market and then press it. So because typically if you get ransom, the stock goes down. So for anybody can buy that information beforehand to if they want to play against that or against the market. So, but yeah, I mean they're getting tougher and tougher. So
Yeah, and I haven't read about that previously. Well, not before, like recently at least. But that's got to be a new thing. Is it that you can sort of, like you say, purchase an early access, like knowledge about ransomware attacks? That's
well, that's what I read about Italy. I don't know if it's really going on. It was just someone saying it, but I don't know if we get it confirmed. But just also, talk about ransomware. Anything that goes on, obviously COVID, huge amount of fake COVID sites coming up about information. Now it's going to get loads about vaccine and get vaccine here. Um, we had a fun. Alan Liska, who's our sort of top ransomware person. He just put in this report on because people see that they were buying a lot of wine, wine delivery, because everyone's working from home, and that type of squatted and sites for wine delivery just skyrocketed. It's just you know
that's pretty clever because yeah, that's natural that sort of wine delivery would increase when you can't go outside.
see there have that you're one bottle down. You need to add some more. If you
Yeah.
don't type there, Napa Valley, and there you are.
We got a question from Ricky B in chat. It says, it's probably to both of us. Like, do you know the ransomware wiki on Tor? Not sure exactly which one you mean, Ricky.
Wiki on tour.
So ransomware wiki on Tor. I know that there are like ransomware groups post their own attacks on the dark web, and then they sort of post a proof of hack basically, so they can leak a little bit of data to prove that they actually have hacked your environments. Not sure about any specific wiki though.
No.
So I mean those attacks then those are going on at the moment. If you would look into your own crystal ball and sort of predict what's on the horizon, do you see any other form of attacks that might come up or might be on the rise basically?
Yeah.
That's a hard question, but is there anything like you
It's
would?
all quest. I mean, um, it's always like almost like you can say like anything that's connected will be hacked in some way, and what would happen? I mean, people talk about driving cars and things like that. I think we will see more, tax authorities will be connected directly to companies, right? Similar to what they had in Ukraine when they got attacked with those whole, and that's the way we're going. Real time information, and any real time information can just be seriously damaged, I think.
Yeah.
But then if you talk, more general, obviously what's going on with fake videos or all that stuff.
Yeah, deep fakes.
That's deep fakes. Yeah, yeah.
That's gonna be tricky in the future. Like, how can you be sure that you're actually speaking to the one that you think
Yeah.
you are? Because if you look on YouTube and just Google or just search for Barack Obama deepfake,
Mm.
I think that's
Yeah.
like a year or two or three old something. So I mean, the technology has evolved since then. But that deepfake that will fool most people.
Yeah, and just by listening to this recording now, that's you. I was in a presentation and I saw you can just have basically one sentence by person, and then the AI could make out just any story read by that person more or less very well. So, and that's just from a conversation like this, making a phone call saying whatsoever, it's very easy.
Yeah. Or maybe it can work on like the other way around also. It could work as a plausible deniability for politicians and like states if they get
Yeah.
spied on basically, and they can sort of claim that, oh, that wasn't me, that's a deep fake.
Yeah.
Yeah, who knows?
So I don't know if we're going to go into that, but right now we're talking exactly what makes it so complicated by threat intelligence. It's threat actors, it's all different modus operandi and stuff. But if you work in an organization, what can you do? And then threat intelligence could be as simple as, okay, here I run my vulnerability scanners. Here's all the patches I need to apply. Which one should I apply first? Which one of all these vulnerabilities are the threat actors actually using? So
Mm.
that's very basic, very valuable use case. If you're a big organization, you can have like do vulnerability scan on your whole IT infrastructure. That could be like 30,000 or something different vulnerabilities.
Mm.
So you need to see where does it the network and which one has been used by what sort of threat actors, which ransomware and stuff, and then exactly maybe you can squeeze it down to these are the top 200 I need to patch to really increase. So that's just an IT use case, automatically.
Yeah. Do you also track like which, if there's any vulnerabilities that has exploits or not? So if it has a public known exploit, then it's of course the risk is higher than.
That's exactly what we do. So that's our one of our unique things. We're part of all these forums, and we also have this technique when we scan these forums and read them automatically in the local language with our, that's a whole other company was founded on collecting information from the internet, do natural language processing, and then link that data together and use it for a machine. So that's exactly what we're doing. We understand exactly when exploits are out or proof of concepts or pen test tools or whatever, and we get the risk score. So we can just shoot that into downstream machine to work it out.
Yeah,
No use is needed.
that's really. I mean, I think that's often forgotten to sort of score or have a risk score for. I mean, if there's two vulnerabilities that has a CVSS, a similar CVSS score, and the one that has a public exploit is going to be, more prone to patching, I would say.
Yeah, I mean CVS score, is it's basically not good enough for doing prioritization. It's all about what's been exploited and what's been used, and it could be theoretical as well more than actually, could have a high CVS score but never been exploited, or vice versa.
Yeah, exactly. So, do you have any? 'Cause, I mean, you obviously deal with a lot of intelligence. Do you have any war stories to share? Like anything that you've been, if there's anything that can be shared, like anything you've been involved in, sort of stopping or unfolding or disturbing, like
Uh,
if there's anything that can be shared. Most of this isn't really public, I suppose, but
no, so some of this, yeah. Yeah. Let me think. I mean, there's reports. being, that we publish actually, I think that's also talking about you said like intelligence is done by sort of states and such. Now, I mean, if you look at the whole community of companies around, a lot, it's a lot of sharing of information for the, not only for publicity, but for the, like to share it for the greater good. So we are one of the companies that put a lot of reports out there that other people uses, and other big companies like FireEye or TrueSec put up the reports there for that can be used and shared information. So yeah, I mean, I was going to find a good. I mean, we have been in front of the Senate a few times in America, right? I think this is a story that's a bit old now, but we got 3 people indicted there in China by U.S. Department of Defense. That's quite a long story, but it's actually on YouTube. If you search for my name, you'll probably find it. It's called. I have a presentation on 2 pandas and vulnerabilities, whatever. But basically, if you talk about vulnerability, CVS score, that's the American MVD database, right?
Yeah.
With all these vulnerability CVS score. China has their own called CNNVD. Russia has another database, right? That's just the public one. So, and just to say I get this right now. So we basically did a correlation here on all that, because we constantly monitoring these sites, and we did a big data correlation on all the vulnerabilities that were released, and see. And the fun thing in this report is that we saw that China was actually faster than America in public in publishing CVs. So if you actually were a top researcher, or not researcher, but just want to do CV, you should actually look at the Chinese database. It was much faster than the US one. So that was something we actually gone to the Senate, to get funding. It was a big story about that one, that America was actually slower and the Chinese was faster. But then what's interesting is that some vulnerabilities that China should have been faster with, they were way, way slower. It took like 270 days before they published them. And you can see that those vulnerabilities were exactly the ones that China nation state had been using themselves. Yeah. So if the MVD database is run by NIST, which is sort of a public or NGO, whatever, we proved that the Chinese government were actually telling the database, the Chinese CMVD database, what not to publish. And then we also linked that to an attack in a company, and we linked to who owned it, and in the end, we were actually able to link some people to an attack there in the same sort of research thing we did. It's quite interesting.
That's really cool. I actually, I mean, I've been in this business for a while. I didn't know that they had their own CVSS databases.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It's awesome. So
all right. So
funny things, that became an indicator. So if you have all these vulnerabilities, we had it in a system. If it's been published in the US database and not published in the Chinese, that's an indicator that it's a Chinese. That's that's intelligence in itself. That's a probability that's being used.
That's true. That's a good take. I mean, it's one thing to gather intelligence. Another thing is how to use it and how to gain actual what do you call insights from it.
Yeah.
So what about if we're stepping away just for a second from nation states? What about and so we've spoken about nation states and more the criminal gangs or ransomware groups. So what about hacktivists? Do you see them as a threat?
I don't think we have seen that many hacktivists. It was in the last years here. I mean, it was Anonymous was going on. It was quite some years ago, but that's typically if I speak to a potential customer and they say we want to find out what hacktivists are out there, and we want to find out what's on me, what people talk about me on the dark web. That's both those things are a bit worrying, because typically it's not that much activists going on in general, and people don't necessarily talk, especially not, they don't talk before they're going to do an attack specifically on a company, unless it's a type of company that's being bad mouthed and stuff. So I mean, we have some are recurring, like the Op Israel is it's an activist attack that goes on every year, and some of these, but the not
a big issue then.
Not what I've seen recently. Maybe it come up. Trends goes up and down. What we have seen is like in general, you can see that like there's also an indicator that physical attacks or terrorist attacks, etc., and internet publishing is going. You can see they go hand in hand, right? So there's it's not like you do either a physical attack or a cyber attack. You can see they come at the same time normally, or it's a flow. So it's been a number of incidents sort of proven typically after it happens that okay, here we can see.
Yeah,
that's a very interesting. So we published this. I did not know, because we monitor these forums, and you can see in so I mean we are primarily doing cyber, right? But we pick up other things that have been discussed in these forums, and you can see that in China, people. Now I'll get the dates right here. That we're talking about. We call it. We have a. So when we analyze this text, we have our processing, natural language processing, that's starting to understand the text, which is a huge thing, right? Like if people, is this sentence, is that talking about a terror attack, or is this sentence talking about a war, or whatever? It's it's a lot of a huge amount of time to train the computers all the time, with the right data and listening and understand slang and everything else. And is this a false positive, etc. But yeah, we can see we have something called disease outbreak. You can see that it's very interesting in China. You can see how there was talk, when Corona just before, there was a lot of talk about disease, people getting sick in Chinese forums, and then it just dropped. So you can basically see that the government just shut down the channels. Nobody can talk about it. And then you can see English forums are getting up. So now you see, why is English forums still talking about it and Chinese don't? Something is going on.
Yeah.
So from that, if you could actually see that something's fishy. And then at one point when the English forums are talking so much, the Chinese government had to put on the lever. It's too much now. We need to get say that the Chinese forum can talk again. So it's like, that's just...
so suddenly they start flowing again, those forums.
That's when a story becomes too big, you have to let it go.
Yeah, it's interesting to see if the start of those talks are sort of prior or after the when it got official, basically, or the first known date of Corona. That's might differ, I would suppose. What kind of forums do you monitor? Is it like public open forums or like deep dark web?
Yes, or... so it's a combination, right? So if you look at intelligence today, if you have a story going on, let's say if you follow this, let's say Navalny and Bellingcat and those whatever, a lot of things people do, it's open source, even though it's very if you link everything together, so much is out on the internet. So a lot of it is open source. You're just getting that volume of the correct open source sources. So we have like 1 million of places we search. This year are open source, but you get that linking going. That's the most important thing. And then it's what we call then closed forums, which is inside our forums. So it's a lot of forums, and we have people that get vetted to get inside these forums. Russian, could be Chinese, and or in Persian or whatever. And you're inside there. You have to sort of get a conversation, and then we do the same with that data, try to pull that in as well, and then follow dark web or Tor sites. We follow links into Tor sites and such, but and then add on a lot of technical information we got from a lot of partners. Everything from Shodan and NetFlow data, whatever. So it's the whole mix, the whole sort of rich, but some of it is very high grade, and that's the thing, like getting the different levels of data, linking it up, able to get a risk score, and then we also have our own, we have an analyst team of like 50 strong analysts who adds information manually to all this data to really get it strong. So it's a mix.
That's really cool. So and speaking of Bellingcat and stuff, more the open source intelligence. Like, what's your take on Elliot Higgins and Bellingcat? Like, are they a competitor to you or like?
No. There's no. We don't. No. I mean, we don't. I mean, everything we do more or less is cyber. So it's a lot about finding out. Yeah, we talked a bit about obviously finding out if you've been talked about in these forums. Absolutely important, right?
Yeah.
A lot of it starts with like a leaked credential, leaked email. Just having that information. If one of your employees' emails been linked very easy, or someone typo squatted your domain, maybe it's going to start a phishing attack. Those kind of things, but very cyber focused. And yeah, we talked about vulnerabilities, and actually the biggest thing we do is that we integrate into SIEM tools, Splunk, QRadar, ArcSight, Logpoint, whatever, Elk, and so you have all these logs going in and out in your network, right? And what do you know? What is bad traffic? And so we send down our information on IPs and domains and hashes like in real time, so you can correlate those logs, and then you see, oh, outgoing traffic to a command and control server that is dropping, I don't know, Locker Gaga. Doesn't look good.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
So that's very, very actionable in the SOC, and then one thing there is just remove those mundane tasks you have inside a SOC to find, look at a needle in a haystack. Let's do that automatic.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And I want to sort of go back to the forums and especially like dark web stuff. Like, what's your take on? Yes, I have a couple of questions that sort of pops up. So first of all, what about? And this is not I don't know much about this, but services where employees can actually like sell their company data on like marketplaces and stuff. Is that a big thing or not?
That's a big thing. So we have and this goes down to how this whole network is of criminal activity, and it's not what you think. How it goes on, you think everything from like the small teenager, sitting there, to like, no, this is business. This is huge business, and it's very profitable. So you can even do, if you're an average IT person, you could go into like a fairly open forum and you'll say, hey, we're gonna download some, get the starter kit here and get, understand how you can fish. I wanted to try to get access, or pay €1,000. You can have our really professional online training on become like the first level hacker, and that's what people do, right? So, and I think we have Norsk Hydro here. They that was obviously an email phishing there to get that was Ragnar Locker, I think, and it's just. So this basically somebody just can try to hack any IP address out there, and I think in that case they hacked like a small partner to this company, and they managed to get into the mail server and just send an email with a bad link in it, and then some employer pressed that link, and then you deploy something, right? You deploy a infect that computer basically, and that's it. Now you can't do anything because you're just a low-term gangster. Not even you. What are you going to do with that? How are you going to do ransom against a multi-billion-dollar international company? No. So now here's the whole network of the ecosystem. You sell that access on a forum to a fully professional, basically a company, fully professional network. Say, I have deployed so and so and so. This is what the company is like. You typically don't say exactly which company it is, but you describe the company so people try to understand what kind of company it is. And then you have ratings like you have on eBay or whatever. So, I know this, this person is legit. So, and you buy that for Bitcoin. So that happened, I think, in Norsk Hydro's case, that happens in January 2019, right? Some person did that, hacked a small mail server. It's a partner company. They got in. And then in 4 months, a hacker group bought that went laterally all across the global corporation before they press that ransomware encrypt all the files button, right?
Yeah.
Because that's what they can do, and they have this also the system to help uncrypt and support anti-encrypt and everything else. So, and that's so being in that loop of seeing who's selling access to what companies is also could be valuable as well.
Yeah.
If you get a hit.
Yeah. That's some big business.
It's massive. You can buy anything.
Yeah. And what about like other as a service and just insert whatever, but like ransomware as a service, for example. I mean, you don't have to be tech savvy yourself, right? You can just buy a ransomware as a service and get.
No, I mean, with
support.
my limited knowledge of computers, whenever you botnet Aftonbladet, they will go up on like the first page saying, we got attacked by Russia. Yeah, because most of the botnets are there,
Yeah.
What does it cost? Does it cost like, $100 to have a botnet running for an hour or something? It's like ridiculously low price.
Yeah.
So it's yeah.
Yeah, we got from chat, and we spoke about finding a needle in a haystack in a SIEM. Rika says that it sounds familiar, and yeah, that's the everyday life of your SOC analyst, just digging through stuff, trying to find that small needle in a haystack.
Yeah, and that's actually the number one use case for correlating with proper contextualized, I would say, threat intelligence. You see what it is, and then this is why this is bad because of X, Y, and Z, and it's real time. So yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Like, do you have any insight about if we'll just step back to ransomware as a service? Like, do you have any insight in how much how much does it cost, or they take a percentage of the ransomware profit and stuff?
I don't know actually. I don't know. I don't actually know exactly the exact business model, but that's a really. I'll ask Alan Liska about that one. He's our expert.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ricky B says again in chat, do you suggest to correlate threat intelligence in the SIEM directly?
Yeah, absolutely. That's what we do for I don't know, 800 customers. Well, it's just one way. Threat intelligence feeding one way into your SIEM, and then you correlate the logs down there. So we don't, we obviously don't see what traffic you have, but that's that's the way to do it. You're telling me you're going to get unemployed though, because the computers will do everything. Not really, but it will. Always add. Just every time you get an incident, just be able to quickly pivot and see what it is. Okay, it's this IP, or it's linked to this plug X. The plug X was that linked to whatever. Blah blah. You're done. So if you know what to do, and create those playbooks. If you have a SOAR tool on top, the more you can automate, right? The more you can just take it easy.
Yeah, or the more time you can spend on actual stuff that needs digging instead of just clearing false positives all day long, right?
I mean, everybody's overworked in cybersecurity. I mean, it's unlimited.
Yeah, I think the day we're out of work due to automation.
Yeah.
I mean, hopefully that would mean that the threat environment has gone down and become a much more friendlier place.
No, absolutely.
So that would be a nice place to
about
to
doing
be.
the right stuff, as you say, right? Putting your brains to the more complex things.
Yeah, absolutely. And like alarm fatigue we've discussed that previously on the show. And alarm fatigue is a real thing for SOC operators and anyone digging in a lot of logs, basically.
No, that's
absolutely.
That's also we work with our clients and sort of try to big what's the business case here, and obviously being more increase your precision is a business case, but how do you value that in terms of okay, I get less chance to get hacked. What does a hack cost? Because $500 million is difficult, right? But you can say, okay, I can save time that my staff spend on different things. Okay, that's time saving. But another thing that that's I think is really interesting. You say, okay, we have so hard time recruiting talented staff, and having the right type of products, doing the right things, it's going to have a good retention rate, and that's a business case. That's that's valid.
Yeah, absolutely. We got more comments from chat where Pale Skinny Swede says that the free Recorded Future Express browser extension is really sweet to use as well.
Oh, look at this! It's gotta be one of my friends. It is. Yeah. So just download it, Recorded Future browser extension, and you can actually get the risk score. You don't see the risk rules on why something is bad, but if you have just a any obviously any indicator, or IP or something, or a vulnerability is very useful. If you have a vulnerability scan, you can just run up a browser extension, and we tell you exactly which ones are from the threat perspective the worst ones, which you should focus on. So
yeah, that's a good suggestion. So check that out.
Yeah. And we have no more, but we have another free thing that's very good. If you don't know about what we call security intelligence, we have a free book actually called the Security Intelligence Handbook. Just download it there. It's really sweet. It's just basically a chapter. What is security threat intelligence? And you go through SOC, vulnerability management, brand intelligence. Very neat. It's like so that's a recommend as well. Just Google it.
Yeah, and I mean, what people, if we're specifically talking about Recorded Future and your sort of intelligence, I don't know what you call them, intelligence consultants, I suppose. Like what kind of people are they? Like what background do they have? Are they linguists, specialists, or are they like intelligence specialists, or are they IT security people, or is it a mix of everything?
Yeah. So that's two different roles. I mean, we have a InSict group, we call them, right, from the Swedish InSict, and they are analysts. So there's like 50 of them, and their background. A lot of them have military background to what you said, right? Been working for different agencies in Europe and in America and other places around the globe, and used to intelligence, right? Writing intelligence report, understanding intelligence, and the background. A lot of them actually have. If you look at, a lot of them have linguistical background in the university. They speak all these different languages, and political science and things like that. And then, so that's obviously hardcore analysts, I would say. And then we have another thing called the intelligence consultants, and those are the people who work with our customers. And that's like a little bit of a, you get to see what's going on, and those are typically IT background or whatever. But it's a good question, because a lot of people have different backgrounds to move into this cybersecurity space. Compared to, I was just in IT or telco before. Everybody just had an IT engineering background. Here, people can, as you say, come from way different backgrounds and universities. And we had one of our best one was a journalist. Be able to condense information and get the information out of it.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. I suppose journalists like to dig into stuff and find the truth somewhere, and just dig into data and get some actionable stuff from it. What
do you choose? Like, what do you guys? What's your background? Are you IT people, or you have a mix? Or
I think most of us are. I mean, it's sort of two different things. I say, like, we had to choose like SOC, for example, and which is one sort of people, and then the rest of TrueSec, which is more like really senior people. While the SOC, of course, as a level 1 SOC analyst, it might be your first job, or it might be your first job in security at least, or it's a stepping stone to some other role that you have your eyes on, basically. But yeah, everyone are nerds. Most of us are nerds. Most of us likes games and IT stuff, and just mess with stuff, basically. I think that's a good personality trait to have, to just be interested in finding out how things work or why it doesn't work.
Yeah.
I'm just happy if it works. I'm happy.
Yeah.
But yeah, my background is actually it's like 20 plus years in IT and 14 years in the telecom sector in various different roles. So yeah, telco. My background is quite strong in telco stuff.
Okay. Yeah.
That's pretty interesting.
And it's also interesting. A lot of these our company, obviously the founder, Christopher Alba, and all this, they're all techies from the beginning as well, and all of the other companies as well. So it's also the whole industry it's not been built by people who want to build companies, if I put it that way. Just it's built by people who really have a desire for doing cool and right things, right? So it's in that way for me. It's a nice industry to be in.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. That's where I belong. I belong with my fellow nerds. That's my home.
That's my home. Yeah.
All right, so I have a segment on this show where it's called Overrated, Underrated.
Okay.
And then I throw out some topics or just words, and then it's up to you to decide if it's like overrated or underrated. And it's like your own personal opinion. It's not what it should be. So I have the thing that I always ask everyone, and it's 0 days. So are 0 days overrated or underrated, would you say?
Wow, no, overrated or underrated. I think, yeah, it's a difficult question. This, some 0 days are very, but I guess they are. If I had to say something, I'd say they're overrated because I think I think most attacks are done by things that can get patched, to be honest, and just that, which is the yeah. So I think a lot of them comes to if you look at the attacks, let's say this exchange thing that came out just recently here, right? I mean,
yeah.
How many was attacked with it before the patch was out, or is it not? Is it just that they didn't patch it, or would they do something else? It was already out there. I think for most of the people. So, yeah.
Yeah, it has been used for a while, and yeah. So my take on that, which I always usually include, is I think that 0 days are generally overrated because people run unpatched systems for way too long.
Yeah.
And like the majority of things the majority of attacks that I see are on unpatched systems. But then a 0 day, like a targeted 0 day, might cause way more damage than your random 100-day-old vulnerability, of course. So yeah, these are sort of non-controversial topics, but they're not easy to answer. Just so you know. So it only gets harder from here. Just so you know.
Yeah. Okay, that's where we go.
Sorry. So, what about certifications? Actually getting a cert. Is that overrated or underrated?
Well, I think overrated or underrated.
I told you they're hard things, right?
The hard things, okay. I'm gonna say a bit overrated though, but I still don't think it's wrong to do certification because it depends on what certification is, but it's important. A lot about security is also about communication, right? To it's not, even though that I need to patch a couple of systems, or whatever. How do we communicate this? How is our common language? If you go on one of these CISPs or whatever, that's a framework. Or if you've done, if you've done the whatever Microsoft Azure certification, you got into the way everybody has a base to stand on, even though you want to do something else. If there's no common ground, it's very difficult to communicate and get things going. So now when I said this, maybe I should say underrated. Obviously, the recorded future, certification is good, but yeah.
Yeah, of course.
And so many, if you put yourself through training, the SANS trainings are very good at that, but and then you obviously get certificate at the end. But yeah, again, this is typically a kind of area you can be very good without having a certification, of course, right? But it
Yeah.
yeah.
I think that most of these sort of conclusions comes down to it depends. So yeah,
Yeah.
it is hard. An easy one then perhaps. Working from home, is that overrated or underrated?
I think it's overrated. So that's we being in fully IT company, going a lot over video conference a long time, and our CEO is very clear that when this is over, or starting to get over in some countries already, we want people back in work at work at
Mm.
least three days a week because you know it's getting innovation going. You need to be in the same room. That's just the way it is, right? And you need to, I mean, be able to work from home is obviously very luxurious and very good, right? But always just be on home. Everything takes longer time. Having these check-ins, whatever. If you sit in a room, typically, if you're in any company you are, someone always says, "Oh, nobody told me that," and I thought everybody knew because so much information is flowing in this conversation. Oh, by the way, I heard this, but whatever, or lunch, or I heard this, or whatever. That's how you pick up information. It's not from like official emails coming up from the corporate. So I think working from home like this maybe become better communal things when you actually more 3D physical, much better video conferencing systems, but still it is a bit overrated
Yeah.
from the innovation that you can get out.
Yeah, I agree. Just for me, it's also like the 5 minutes before and after meetings where you're sort of at the classical like at the water cooler or at the
Yeah,
you grab a coffee and you're like, hey, how did the move go last weekend? Or how's your kids? Are they healthy now? Or hey, did you need any
yeah.
help with that thing that you asked about? And then you're like, oh yeah, I do actually. And then that's because if
No, and absolutely, and everything becomes more. Exactly. How do you feel? I get that, and then over internet becomes more like very formal and everything else. And also the fact if you're I'm gonna call my colleague here. Oh, you just see the full day is booked.
yeah
Because it's back-to-back meetings and yeah, but all of those are not going to go on for the full hours. When you see someone, you can say something, but now I don't know. You have to slack and say, "Hey, are you free?" It's
it takes time. Yeah, I agree.
takes time.
So what about and this is not another question, but we spoke about deepfakes before. Do you think that
Mhm.
like that as deepfakes improve, that will hinder working remotely? Like the fact that you can't really trust the one you're talking to, that it's the one, or do you have to like cryptographic meetings eventually, like to prove who you are or something?
Yeah, well, that's a very good question. I think because I don't know what this is going. I mean, we're just in the beginning of this whole revolution, uh, and still still actually, even though they I have a nice laptop here, still the power in it is not supporting everything. And eventually, how do you know the identity? How do you know who people are? And yeah, and what kind of society that's bring up? I don't know.
Yeah,
It's
yeah, you can't really trust anyone that you speak to. That's a scary future. So yeah.
yeah, but just we believe just I mean again just videos that we believe or photo evidence is that all going to go away? You can't trust anything anybody recorded. It started off with people recording from the video. Now crimes are recorded from people's video cameras or video cameras or phone cameras.
Yeah.
Or eventually going to go, that could have been done, or you have to prove that was actually not an edited one, or I don't know.
Yeah. That's uh that's an interesting future. All right.
No,
It's gonna give me
maybe.
nightmares for a while. So let's 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 move on to the last question for the overrated underrated, and we've already touched upon this, so I probably know your answer. But hacktivists, overrated or underrated?
Yeah, absolutely overrated. I think. Um, you know, People doing things for money
Yeah.
or power. That's it. It's not enough money in activism. You know. So
Yeah. I mean, even if you look at outside of cyber, activists are probably a minority compared to like criminal entities in any regards.
Yeah, but the thing people use there is to see if the thing is if you want to gather people physically, you typically communicate on that on internet. So just being part of forums or Twitter to say, let's meet at what I don't know, Tahrir Square or somewhere else, But so it's like collecting that public information.
Yeah. Like, do you? And on that topic, do you as a company track instigators, let's call them? Like if there's a rally to something, let's say in the US, let's say there's a rally for something in the US. Are there cases where you sort of track who sort of stirred that up? If it might be like another nation state, or is it actually like locally stuff?
Yeah, no, we're not really into that. There's a whole area of like fake news and manipulation of individuals and forms of bloggers or Twitter. No, that's not really what we can do or do. So.
Oh yeah, troll farms. We haven't even touched upon that, but that's another issue as well.
Yeah, we did back, earlier we did some work on the Islamic State and stuff, and see that because they were quite active on Twitter, and we were doing some work back then. But something that's now we're way more cyber than those kind of things.
So am I remembering incorrectly here? But did Recorded Future sort of start off as to predict that like the stock market and
that's actually of all of this. If you look at the landscape of security intelligence provider, that's our unique thing is that we didn't come from this space. I wasn't a founder or something, but they came from the whole idea that everything on the internet here is just very instant and flat. If you Google anything, you get 10 results. That is, but what if you keep the track of history, how things have moved, and temporal analysis, and also language. So start collecting this information from the internet and automatically link all these things together. So, and what they started off like is saying, what are people talking about India, and also try to understand if someone talk about India next year. So let's get everything read. I mentioned India next year, and maybe also about food supply, and if you were in that business or something else, and use that for sort of geopolitical and we had even in my time we had business intelligence. So you can say if we're a car manufacturer, let's say every patent that came out and every collaboration that was announced, you link all these dots together through history, and they can think, these two companies said they were doing something. Then we think, if let's say if Northvolt and Tesla said something, then we can predict that probably in 2 years there would be a car with that battery in, sort of things. So and then they, I think it was around 2013 that what you call in the startup language, they pivoted into cyber, because that's actually was the use case that seemed to be the ones that are working best. So we're doing geopolitical or between that sort of merge into cyber. So it came to building an engine and then adding cyber and then becoming a cyber company, rather than being like a bunch of analysts that you talked to earlier, who was writing basically reports, and then say, we need some backbone here to support our reports, and then we need to do something more. So we came from that technical angle.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that's not really what you would assume if you would sort of try to guess where you came from initially. That's really interesting. So I know that you publish a lot of articles and reports and stuff for free for everyone to read. Like where can you find these things? Is it on LinkedIn or on your website or?
Yeah, the best place to go for just our news feed, basically, or not ours, but we have this the record by Recorded Future. That's our. You can subscribe to the newsletter. That's basically a journalist. We have a site. We have really cool, I would say, to be honest. When I joined the company 6 years ago, our founder, Christopher Almstedt, said, we want to be the Bloomberg of threat intelligence, be everywhere, and then that's one piece of it. Provide that information. So we had that live interview with Revel or whatever. And so that's at one place, and then obviously we record the future. You should obviously follow us on LinkedIn or Twitter or Facebook or whatever. We publish all these reports.
Yeah, and it's quite often. So there's a lot of reading to do if you're into this.
Yeah, and if you're interested in understanding what we do webinars every week, just demoing our product from different angles. So it's very easy to see, or just go into the webpage. So I think we are probably the company's most public on what we do. So it's easy to even just see a film of a demo recording.
That's really cool. So sort of the last question is, like, we got this these things from Record the Future, and also like the web browser extension that we mentioned. Is there anything else sort of for free that we just
I haven't mentioned it, but just we have a podcast, so it's a little bit competing with your stuff, Mikael. It's not as good, but no, we have a huge podcast. I think we're up to like close to 300 episodes now, and a lot of times when I go out to see people, let's do a podcast. But I'm gonna say buy my products. And that's rare. I think people like the format is roughly about 15 minutes normal time, and they interview people basically from all different angles. How do you could be someone, how do you go into cyber or something on a ransomware, or high and low technically, and really popular. So what I said is the handbook, Security Intelligence Handbook. Google for that one. It's the free browser extension, obviously our blog, the record, and podcast.
That's some good stuff to catch up on.
Yeah.
I saw that was it Graham Cluley that was in the last podcast, right? Or the next podcast? Yeah, he's featuring your podcast anyway.
Yeah, I'm a bit behind on my podcasting at the moment, but I'm gonna listen to that one.
He's a cool guy, so
yeah. So I was listening to one recently. I was trying to remember which one it was. It was quite good. I found, but it's slipping my mind now.
Yeah. But those are some good stuff some good takeaways if you want to know, if people want to know more about threat intelligence and like read up on stuff.
Yeah, and obviously email me, Magnus at recordingfuture.com. Give any follow-ups, or TrueSec, obviously.
Exactly.
You can hear anybody else, right?
Contact me, or I'm on Twitter and everything. So just ping me there if anyone wants anything. So I think I sort of covered everything, all the topics and questions that I had initially. What about you, Magnus? Did I forget to talk about something?
I mean, what's your view on this space? What do you think? Is this going to be? Do you see by the people you interact with? Is this growing? Is this a hype? Or
yeah, I think the ransomware is just getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and also how they target companies. And like we touched upon earlier, the selling of that it's actually in stages, right? So one group can sort of focus on getting the initial access, and then they sell that access to a ransomware group, which has the correct structure and organization to actually deploy the ransomware or steal your data and then ransom that as well. I mean, just recently we had I don't remember the company that was hacked, but then they had the Apple IP, basically schematics and stuff for Apple's future things. So I mean, Apple itself wasn't even breached; like one of their partners were, and that's not good.
That's not good. No, I obviously haven't even touched on like SolarWinds and those kind of attacks. It's and everything gets connected. So it's supply chain attacks. It's not easy.
Yeah. No, and I think it's gonna get worse. I think it's gonna get much worse because there's so much money to get, and the risk is quite low. There's not much. I mean, I get it. Sort of why people. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I mean, I remember. I think so I'm in the security space a bit new, but they used to say, talk about on has anybody died from a cyber attack? Well, something like 5, 10 years ago, and people say maybe, maybe. Now it's obviously, people have, German hospitals attacked in Düsseldorf and everything else. And I think, the next question is, when is the next sort of really global, let's say, global 2000 company going to go under for a cyber attack?
Yeah.
Basically not recover.
Yeah.
Do you think?
Absolutely. I mean, and there's been a few. There's a website that tracks ransomware victims that has actually gone out of business. And
oh, really?
yeah, and
I know it's one that's tracking a lot of big ones. Okay.
yeah, I'm not sure if there's any big ones that's actually gone out of business, but there's a couple of ones, especially if we're talking smaller ones. I mean, the ones comes to mind is the clinic in Finland, the psychology ward or something, right? In Finland, where they leaked like confidential patient information, and they went out of business because of that.
Oh, I didn't know they went out of business. I know the story, but okay.
Yeah, so they're not a thing anymore because of that attack. And there are more cases, more instances of this, but not like huge companies yet. But I mean, it's imagine if you're on the brink of getting out of business, and then you get ransomware, and you're like everything stands still for weeks, and you can't even do anything.
I mean, Maersk attack was obviously massive back then. Just look at now, just a bit of look at something like obviously I'm from Gothenburg, like automotive industry. Now there's a lack of some particular blue chip cars, right? So they don't they're stopping producing cars at the same pace. There's an attack on a production line in the major automotive manufacturer. You have to just the impact on the whole ecosystem of just-in-time parts being delivered, ordering. It's going to be absolutely massive.
Yeah, I think we're going to see more businesses go out of business. There's a lot of S's in one sentence. So we got from chat. Actually, I just want to say thanks also to Mikael Almstedt, who subscribed for another month to Twitch, and also Darudi, who did it in the beginning. I forgot to bring that up. That's really cool. So they're 2 more subs, or 2 longer subs. So Ricky B says in chat that threat intel is definitely growing more important from my perspective for prevention as well as detection. And then he also agrees with us and says, yeah, ransomware is a huge threat. It's so easy to set up, so easy to adopt. I mean, there are franchises for ransomware. Has it ever been easier? Mm-hmm. And it was probably easier to do it a couple of years ago, but I don't know. It's just the sheer number of companies that are, that you can reach on the internet. That's
And one thing we didn't actually touch on as well is like if you look at especially in bit smaller companies, you think like, okay, so I'm someone's doing a crime against me. Okay, I need to go to the police or even the military or whatever. No, this is internet. There's no borders, right?
Yeah.
And obviously should go to the police, but they will always almost say, oh, we can't do anything. This is, first of all, we can't identify this person, even if they can. It's someone in another nation, right?
Yeah, and it's such a different, and I've spoken this on previous episodes, but it's such a different arena as well, because I mean, if anyone steals something from you, then of course you go to the police and you file a report on it, and then the police will investigate that. It may or may not actually result in anything, but they will actually do the investigative work. But if you get ransomware or something and you go to the police, I mean, nothing's really going to happen. No. Even though it's still a theft, it's just a virtual theft, and then you can't go to the police.
Well, that was actually big news now that the Swedish sort of authorities have said that they said that the Russian nation state hacked the anti-doping agency in Sweden. There's been stories going on that they've been down to Varda and they've been in Switzerland. They were in Amsterdam, I believe, as well. And then basically the Swedish attorney just went out and said, this is not a body we can go after because it's a nation state. The jurisdiction is just to go after people. So that was quite big news that blew up just the other week, right? So, and that's also a guess of, you talked about we started off about nation state and their different goals. I mean, Russia for sure has also military goals in Ukraine and other places to put in, against the power grid as well, but also these sort of attacks to discredit something like the anti-doping agency and other things like that, right? As part of their anti, fake news, anti whatever propaganda they're doing.
Yeah, because Russia naturally has a long history of doping and not really dealing with it properly, most would say. Yeah, so try to discredit other athletes and countries with this in order to justify their own behavior, basically. Like, oh, everyone else is also being doped.
And that's very typical Russia. Nobody in Russia doesn't realize it's corrupt or these things happen. But the story is everybody's doing it.
Yeah,
that's just the story. They don't necessarily need to be too open. The story they want to do is like everybody does it. Yeah, it goes on the same everywhere.
Yeah, and something that I'm usually thinking about. Do you sort of tie different ransomware groups to governments as well? Because I know that some groups are working closer than others with various governments, or they get more leeway, perhaps.
Absolutely, there's an overlap between nation states and different ransomware groups. There's no doubt, and also we see that they buy from each other different techniques, and you can see that they've been using or sharing things. Even I gotta be very precise here, but we had a report out that was even between Iran and Russia as well. It's not even in the same state that we're using. I think don't hold me exactly that, but something like that. So it's a lot of people have different specialities and they share tools and so on. And you can also see, right? So I think that's quite interesting. If you're a criminal, it's got to be quite difficult to be a criminal in Sweden, run a big ransomware gang, right? Because the police are going to go after you. If you do in certain countries like Russia, the Russian state probably won't go after you as long as you don't do against your own country.
Yeah,
and it's classic. I can't remember what it was now, which sort of ransomware or whatever was deployed, but when they checked what kind of keyboard setting you had. If you had the Cyrillic alphabet, it didn't do anything. But if you just have any other keyboard, it just started sort of affect your PC.
Yeah. So doing that, you as a group, as a ransomware group, you might get more leeway or a bit friendlier cooperation with the government if you don't target your own country. Yeah, absolutely.
But then eventually, it seems like they all go to vacation in Spain and then they get arrested. Number of criminal IT people has been arrested in Spain is just unbelievable.
I suppose even criminals want to get some sun, right?
Get some sun, yeah. Well, you have to go to Sochi.
Yeah. Get some Russian sun in Sochi. Right. Anything else, Magnus?
No, I was just saying I enjoyed this.
Me too. I've been looking forward to this all week, and I had so many questions to ask, which we've spoken about. It's been really, really interesting.
Yeah. So
cool. All right. So people know how to get a hold of you if they want to get more information, and where they can read up on recorded future reports and everything. So that's good to know. I can really recommend it. Very, very unbiased comment, because they are really, really good. Honestly are. So if you find this stuff interesting, you should really look into that.
Good stuff.
Right. Thank you for joining me, Magnus. It's been awesome.
Thank you, Mikael. It's been really nice.
Thanks.
Let's do it again.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's do it again. And thanks to everyone in chat for Ricky B and everyone.
Ricky B. Give me a shout. You need some TI in your sock there.
Exactly. Reach out to Magnus and he'll help you out. I know that Ricky is drowning in alarms and logs, so I think he needs.
Well, that thing is so easy to test. I don't know what you have. If you have Splunk, for instance, we have a free. You can just download 1 month free trial. No new humans needed. You just connect and you get that. I don't know if you have Splunk, but if you don't have Splunk, you have to contact us. But if you have Splunk, you just get the app in, get an API key, boom, there you go.
That's really cool. I didn't know that actually.
Well, anybody with Splunk, 1 month free trial. Let's go.
Cool.
Google it.
You learn stuff doing this. That's awesome.
Well, yeah.
All right, Magnus. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see everyone next week, next Wednesday again.
Yeah.
All right.
Be here.
See you guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Inside security.